Okay, Mr. Byre Gowda, I know you've been really busy on the campaign trail, a campaign that hugely focuses on the youth.
Yeah.
But tell me, why is the voter turnout looking so low, and why has it been so low, especially from the urban youth?
It's been a problem for a while, not just from the youth, but mostly from the urban space. For a couple of reasons. One is that, of course, youth feel that their issues are not reflected in the political system.
True.
And hence they feel a sense of disconnect. So that disconnect doesn't obviously motivate them to come out and vote, and they don't see their thoughts being reflected in the political system. So I think that's one reason. The second is the urban, especially urban middle class. They do complain about a lot of civic issues, but by and large, I mean, I'm sure people, when I say this, some people may be upset, but they are relatively better off in the society compared to other people who are probably more in need of government, so they feel compelled to vote. But anyway, going back to the youth, and so I'm sure your next question would be, how do we can we do anything about it? So I was heading the youth wing of Congress party for a couple of years, and my advice and my message to youth back those days, and it's still the same, was and is that if you stay disconnected from the political process, you will continue to get alienated even further. The only way that your thoughts will be reflected in the political system is if you make an effort to engage with the political system. And when I say engage, I am not asking you all to join politics.
But
you
have
could
a knowledge of
engage,
what's going
yes,
on.
be aware. That's the first level of engagement. Number two is, if you want to take one step further, do some local activism. Every elected representative looks for local volunteers. That's second level of engagement. And third level is to be an active politician. So you don't have to get into politics to have your voices heard. So I think the complaint that our voices are not heard, yes, I admit it. But part of the solution is with the youth. They must make an effort to get involved, and then their voices will be heard. That's the only way. Otherwise, political system will stay what it is, and you will be equally frustrated, probably more frustrated going forward, and that's not going to solve any problem.
But no, our legislators are not talking about it. Not much is being said about the fuel prices, the threat of overpopulation. Bangalore, we're facing all of this right now, overcrowding and all. So what do we do to change that?
Look, it's also because, we political parties look at what issues have resonance from public. So if you start responding to issues like jobs, and if people start speaking on issues like women's safety and concerns or women have at home or at workplace, political parties will start responding. I'm not absolving the political parties, I'm just being practical about how things work. So, somebody says, I will eliminate corruption, and then gets caught in a corrupt allegation. Obviously, we are going to talk about it because, that's one way of building a connect with the people. But really, I agree with you. The real issues are about jobs, right? And a lot of concerns about women, lack of entrepreneurial opportunities for youngsters. So these are the real concerns, and I think that those voices also must be heard from those segments, and obviously political parties will start responding to them. You also have to understand that, look, we are in here to ultimately get the mandate from people. And whatever issue that will gain us your attention, we are going to address those issues. So we don't create issues in vacuum. There is a dialectic between us and the society. And if you start saying that, look, these are the issues I'm interested in, you meaning not an individual, but a fairly decent size of people, then we want to, that's an opportunity for me. Think of it that way, practically speaking.
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Byre Gowda, I know.
Call me KBG, that will do.
KBG, okay,
yes.
Fine. KBG, I know you have so many people coming to you every day with their problems, you know, day after day. So what do you do to unwind? I'm sure it can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I mean, I used to initially struggle with the stress. Political work on one side, constituency work on the other side.
Yeah.
And but gradually I've learned to cope with it. Of course, I've also learned to manage my time effectively. But one thing that really helps me is an exercise regimen.
Okay.
So if I'm in Bangalore, I hardly miss my exercise regimen on a daily basis. If I'm traveling, nothing much I can do, but if I'm in city, that's a must, because if I break sweat, then a lot of the stress goes out of my body and mind. I don't know if it is my, I've just convinced myself of that, or if it's a fact.
Everybody,
yeah. So I need to break sweat.
Okay.
And that really brings me down. So whatever frustrations, whatever stress of things not done, I'm able to expunge it from body and get neutralized once I do some exercise. So it helps me a lot. I read a bit every night before.
What kind of literature?
I read some fiction, but a lot of history, because being in public life, you need to be conscious of history. Otherwise, you will be condemned to repeat the horrors of history, which are happening in our society today, because we have chosen to forget history. I used to love traveling actually, but things have gotten so hectic that now I don't get much time. So I and my wife would backpack. We have backpacked in India, and we have backpacked in other parts of the world also. That's one time where we can be ourselves. Otherwise, I have become so conscious of myself because of the people around that we hardly get to drop our caution and be ourselves. So traveling is great fun. We used to do a lot of outdoor activities also, a lot of hiking. I am a certified ocean diver.
Oh, wow.
But again, we don't get time for neither diving nor trekking or hiking. Yeah. So the only time I guess I can do that is if I get a break from public life, which I don't think you would wish me or anybody else would wish me. But yeah, so those are some things that help us keep afloat. But over a period of time, I've also actually become more patient. I've learned to be calm with people.
Meditation?
No, I don't know. People have taught me.
Oh.
Working with people teaches you so many things you can't believe. It's just that one needs to have the intent to learn. So if you have that open mind, every day you end up learning something or the other.
But everyone right now, it's 2019, for everyone to recognize that there is so much divisiveness and hyper-nationalism in our society, in our country. How do we go about recognizing it and then dealing with it? What do you think?
I don't know, you've hit the right question actually. It's a little bit of a crazy time. Crazed time rather. And you're right that our people are not recognizing some people, not all, let's be clear, some people are not recognizing that we are in a crazy time, and that this false sense of nationalism and not having a true sense of nationalism is not in the interest of this country.
Yeah.
And this also has to do with being ignorant of history also. Other countries have gone through this experiment, and horrors, unspeakable horrors have come out of this false sense of nationalism in the 20th century. Millions of people paid with their lives because of fascism and a false sense of nationalism. And we thought as a universal society, we understood these things and we had moved forward. But unfortunately, it's a shock for people like us also that history is not linear, that somehow we haven't learned from history, and we are revisiting the same times. Hardly now, how many, 70 years after Second World War. This past year we completed 100, early this year was the 100th year of the end of First World War. And not just in India but around the world, you see similar trends picking up. I think it is important for us to understand what is nationalism. Nationalism is a good thing. It's just that in the name of nationalism, you're trying to
do extreme
not only extreme, first of all, create this sense of us and them, which is nothing but dividing people. See, my take is that India is not just a mark on the map. India is nothing but people who make up this country.
Of course.
Right? So if you want to really, if you're so, if you love your country, if you love India, which we do, then you have to love every Indian. No matter what he or she thinks, what he or she wears, what he or she speaks,
what he or she
eats. Exactly. You have to. So India is not just a boundary. India is just not a mark on the map. It is, India is its people. India is its people. And what is a false sense of nationalism? To say that I don't like a few Indians, but I love India. We have disagreements, but you have a right to have disagreements. I'm not saying gloss over all that and just leave it aside and let's get together and do goody stuff. That's not the idea. But agree to disagree, but don't question anybody's Indianness. You have no right to question anybody's Indianness. And of course, today we have gone to a little bit more extreme, that anybody who questions the Prime Minister gets called an anti-national. That's absurd, to say the least, and I will not bring respect to that discussion by further elaborating, but I'll leave that aside. It's absurd. Having said that, I think nationalism is good. The type of nationalism where you love every Indian is what this country needs.
Okay, now let's quickly play like a small game. I'm going to say a word and you have to tell me the first thing that comes to your head when you hear the following words.
All right.
Okay.
Let's try.
Are you ready?
Yes, let's try.
Let's start with Bengaluru.
Home and dynamic.
Nice. Favorite food?
Any food which is made well, vegetarian, but it has to be made well.
Okay.
I will eat any cuisine in the world as long as it's made well.
Yeah.
I don't tolerate
subpar, below
average, wishy-washy food.
Okay. Currently watching. What are you currently watching?
I'm just watching people now.
So nothing on Netflix?
Nope. No.
Okay,
not for the last month.
Music.
Jazz and blues.
Jazz and blues. Okay. What about pets?
Dog family, but no time now.
Oh, okay. Coffee or tea person?
Coffee. Good coffee.
Yeah. Again,
good coffee. It has to be good coffee. Otherwise, rather not do anything.
Typical Kannadiga filter coffee, or like are you a French press?
Any coffee which is made well. I love every coffee which is made well.
Okay.
Be it South Indian filter coffee, I love equally. I love an espresso, I love a cappuccino, anything that's made well.
Favorite country in the world other than India?
Ooh. I love many countries.
Hard to pick.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pick.
Yeah.
What about politics? First thing that comes to your mind?
Honor and privilege.
Well said. And lastly, India.
Indians make India.
Okay. Great. That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Great catching up with you.
I know. Good luck for the upcoming election.
Thank you.
And hopefully everybody like me will go out and vote. Exercise your right to vote.
Yes.